loss stuff. I was like, I went for a haircut in Seattle when we were there, and then
Right.
there's a Vietnamese lady that was cutting my hair, and she's like, "You're going a little bald right there." I'm like,
She
"Really?"
was like, "You don't need a haircut. You don't want to lose it."
I'm like, "Really? I thought I had good hair. I didn't think I was losing hair." But then
Right.
I got a little paranoid, and every single like little um, thing makes me think I'm losing my hair. So I started researching and looking at different things that I can buy possibly for hair loss, prevent hair loss, and
Right. Right.
I was looking at finasteride and then the side effects that finasteride can have, and then minoxidil
Right.
and ketoconazole
Next, you're going to be
and
injecting some PRP into your head.
PRP. But I was like, I'm not that bad. I mean, I still have pretty full set of hair. Uh, but I think for someone starting out, I mean, just a topical minoxidil is not a bad idea. I haven't used it yet, but I've started looking it on Amazon. Uh,
Right. Right.
and then I started getting a bunch of Hims and Her ads.
It's a natural progression.
So I started getting those ads for Hims, and they have their own hair loss product line. So
Right. Right.
now my Instagram feed is just a bunch of hair loss stuff.
Dude, I know.
And
If you book a flight to Turkey, we know what's happening.
yeah, I mean, I don't. I think I'm still far away from that. I mean, I don't think I'm losing hair that badly, but it's something you got to deal with when you start approaching your 40s. I'm still
Yeah, dude,
not
it
there,
just starts
still a
happening.
little far away from that, but it's happening, right?
I know. I think I'm good right now, but you never know. You never know.
You're hiding it behind the long hair, dude. Sometimes it happens. You have all the hair, and then all of a sudden there's a bald spot right there, and then you
It
start.
just shows up, huh?
It just shows up
Yeah,
one
I
day.
told I told Samia, my wife Samia, if I start going bald, I'm just gonna shave my whole head. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that's
go
what
with
I'm gonna
the
do.
Vin Diesel look.
I'm just gonna shave the whole head. That's
Yeah,
probably the hardcore look. Looking like you've been through stuff. And I have a big scar on the back of my head too, so it's gonna make it even
battle
cooler.
scars, bro.
Battle scars. But yeah, man. I mean, that's what being a dad does to you. The stress of being a dad,
Right.
running your practice. And now I think
Yeah,
you start focusing on your health at some point when life slows down a little bit, but seems to never slow down when you have young kids.
it's just
When
nonstop.
yeah, exactly. But I mean, there's a recent study, right, that we were both looking at. It shows that dads go through a big brain change in the brains in the first 8 months, or first, especially the first 8 weeks, 12 weeks of the
Yeah,
kid's life, right? And there's a change in the gray matter, and especially the cortex, and that's where a lot of the bonding and understanding other people's emotions and empathy happens. There's a big hormonal change as well in dads when babies are born. There was a thing called mom brain is real. Moms go through huge, huge, huge hormonal changes. I mean, producing prolactin and oxytocin. But dads go through changes too. I mean, they have a decrease in testosterone levels. They also get prolactin and oxytocin, and it kind of helps them bond with the baby as well. Big changes.
totally. Yeah, and like, I mean, we're not even pretending to equate the two. I mean, like moms go through way more, and it lasts way longer, and I mean, changes in their body, changes in their brain. But the quote unquote dad brain, like you're talking about, there are real changes in like the actual anatomy. The structure of the brain changes when you're a new father. And the most interesting thing I found from that paper, Humayun, was, yeah, I mean, there's about a 1% gray matter reduction. It does affect the areas that trigger emotion and emotional bonding, the hormonal changes. But what I thought was most interesting is like the more present you are, the more in that study that the dads were around the kids and the more time they spent in that first 6 to 8 weeks, actually very strongly correlated with the amount of reduction seen in those specific areas. It's almost like a dose dependent, right? Like if you took time off, if you actually were around your children and your wife in that first early phase and you actually actively partook in the bonding, that almost seemingly like triggered the brain changes, almost like taking an active role in being a dad, not just, okay, child occurred, I'm going to continue my life, now there's just one more human at the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting. They took 25 first time dads, right? And they did brain imaging and brain scans at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12. Oh, sorry, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 9 weeks, 12 weeks, and then at 24 weeks. And they
Yeah.
saw the changes, and they saw changes in the dads that were the most involved and most present, had the most amount of changes that improve their empathy, their bonding with the kid. So it just showed you that you don't have those dad changes and dad brain just for having a kid. You have those changes when you show up for your kid,
Yeah, and
and
it makes you think, right? Like, if those changes are most pronounced, and they kind of leveled off, they were most pronounced in like the first 6 to 8 weeks, and then they tapered. And like you said, it was the dads who were really involved early on had the biggest changes. That could be something that's like lasting for life in a way that if you invested the time, energy, and desire to bond with your child early on, they're a really new infant, and developed that like change in the brain that triggers higher emotional connection, ability to read emotions in other people. It could be something that lasts for the lifetime, your remaining life and your remaining interactions with your kid as a father. And it may, I mean, I'm going out on a limb. I'm not saying that the study stated this, but it could potentially lead to a continued high level of bonding and emotional connection and relationship with your kids for the rest of your life just by investing that time early on,
yeah.
you know?
I mean, neuroplasticity, everyone talks about that. It's a real thing where brain can actively change by the things you do, right? If you are someone that's curious, that's someone who's constantly reading about things and learning new things, reading books, gaining knowledge, your brain changes, it matures, it becomes, creates new synapses and connections where you become wise, and there's wisdom to it, right? Spending that time doing that work. Same with having a baby. um, it's not going to automatically change. You have to have those moments of closeness with the baby, put them to sleep, cuddling with them. The dad's body also produces prolactin and oxytocin, and the testosterone levels go down, and because you are spending that time with the baby, and these brain changes definitely can be permanent, have a long lasting effect. And that kind of makes a case for dads being there early on. I mean, paternity leave is not as common now. It is getting more accepted and expected to for everyone. But back in the day,
Right,
it
right.
wasn't used to be, right? I mean, there's this thing that millennial dads are more present, more involved with their kids. They have a better relationship, better bond. But is that the millennial dads, or the world we're living in? It is a world of abundance where we have certain luxuries in life, where most millennial dads are able to take some time off to spend time with their kids, where maybe in the 1950s, the 1960s, 70s, maybe the dads at that time could not do that, and maybe they never developed that bond early on in life, and they just did not have that kind of those brain changes that you see. It's just assumption. I'm not saying that's what happened,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
the idea that, hey, is it truly, is it something special about these younger dads nowadays, or is it because they were able to spend that time early on with their kids?
Yeah, it's a good question, man. I don't know. I mean, regardless of the reason, I think it's great. I mean, I loved the paternity time I took off. And like with my son, my first kid, um, with Rayan, I really didn't take much time. I mean, like barely 2 weeks. I was in training, I was in fellowship, wasn't much time at all. And I feel like I missed out on a lot of that stuff. Like Samia would text me like, look what he's doing today, or like a little video or something. And I was like, yeah, like I should be there. Not like trying to do another shoulder replacement, you know? But like with Sophia, it was great because I took like a full 3 months, and you're there all day, every day for all of it. It was very different, um, and it really hit me then. Like I thought with Rayan that, oh, I'm getting the updates. Sami's telling me what happened. I'll come home, play with him, hold him. She would tell me all about the day and everything. But like when I saw it in person and I was partaking in it, I was holding Sophia, feeding her during the day with the bottle, just like messing with her, putting her to sleep. That's when I was like, man, I kind of like missed a lot of this with Rayan in his first few months of life. And it's just how it was. Like you didn't have 3 months during your fellowship training to take off. You just got what you got.
Yeah. With it's funny with Aslan, the first time we had our first son. um, I was in cardiology fellowship, so I took 2 weeks off, and then my program put me on an easier rotation. They knew that I was about to have a baby, so I was on an echo rotation where I was just reading echoes and would be home on time. So
Oh,
but
that's
it was still
nice. That's
busy. It was
good.
still busy. Like it was still like 7 to 5, 5:30 sometimes later. But I would be home in the evenings and kind of spend time. But then my surgery happened, right? For at that time I got
Right.
diagnosed with with the condition I had, and I had the spinal surgery for the tumor removal. And then I got to spend around 6 to 8 weeks at home every day with him. That was
Right,
kind of a
right.
prolonged.
Your recovery was your forced paternity leave.
Yeah, my recovery was my forced paternity leave, so I got to do a lot of that, a lot of bonding early on in his life when he was, much younger, and that created a bond. I mean, I would wake up and be with him, and we lived in a small apartment at the time because I was training, so we'd spend a lot of time. I was part of a lot of those moments early on. So it
Dude,
happened
that's
right when he was
awesome.
born.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
it was
you had the gray matter reduction twice. I
huh?
only had it the second time.
Yeah, yeah. A forced gray matter reduction too.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so that kind of helped me kind of have a forced paternity leave. It was stressful time at that time, but looking back now, I got to spend some quality time with him. And now that my time is more in my control, like I did on the second baby time, I did scale back a little bit on my duties. I changed the timings of my clinic. I was able to, go to the hospital less, do less procedures, punt a lot of the things to other doctors, and which they were happy to take, because private
Yeah.
practice is how it works. So I scaled back quite a bit and was able to spend a lot more time with her in her early days and kind of bond and be there. Now my life's gotten back busy again, so I'm not spending as much time. By the time I get
Yeah.
home, sometimes it's ready for her bath time, and it's bedtime. And at least those are the times I'm able to spend with them. Now at least do the bath time and bedtime. It's tough, but it's important. It's important for dads to show up, be there. It does create a lasting bond, and I don't. Most dads looking back, no one says, "Oh man, I wish I worked more." Everyone says, "Oh, I wish I spent more time with my kids."
Yeah.
Uh, Not that I work unless you were just lazy and not doing anything and just at home playing video games and smoking all day. Then yeah, you should wish you worked
Video
more.
games and smoking.
I mean, there are people like that. That's mostly late.
I mean, can you imagine? It just sounds so funny. Like you're at work, you come home, you're like, man, I'm tired. I'm just gonna go put on some Grand Theft Auto and smoke some weed. And it's like, what about your two kids that are in middle school and your wife is there and just, no, I'm just gonna play some games and smoke.
Yeah.
But I guess you're, I mean, some people do that. I just think it's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
and
ridiculous.
it's shown time and time again that presence of both parents, plays a huge role in how kids develop, right?
Yeah.
Uh, them getting two different set of adults that's raising them, different personalities, different qualities. It brings a different dynamic in the family, and that family dinner time, dad being there, mom being there, kind of mom giving her input, dad giving their input, their own, according to their own personalities, shapes the kid. The kids, that's all they learn. I mean, sometimes I see Aslan do stuff, and I'm like, dude, that's what I say. The other day, we were we were driving, and we're kind of stuck in traffic, and all I hear in the back is like, God, so much traffic. I'm like, where did you learn this?
Yeah, did they copy all of our stuff?
Yeah, because he was like,
It's like,
God, so much traffic. And I'm
yeah.
like,
So
this is
like
this is something I'd say.
This Fourth of July, we were hanging out with a bunch of friends, and we were just shooting fireworks in their driveway. And like, Rayan started getting excited, and he just like yelled, "Oh yeah, baby!" And everyone just stopped and looked at me. You're like, "Did you teach him that?" I was like, "Well, not intentionally. I just said it." And he picked it up. It was just so funny.
Yeah, yeah.
But
They
you're
learn the
totally right.
kids.
Like parents being present and like that. I think that's like a very important distinction of like you're not just there in the same house or in the same room. You're actually present. Like you're putting your damn phone away. You're interacting with your kid. Like get off the phone, get off the laptop, whatever you're doing. Like actually be engaged with your child, play with them, like sit on the floor and play with their Legos with them, or they want to run around with like, like Rand loves pretending to be like Ninja Turtles, right? He's like into that right now. So he's got like the little Ninja Turtle bandanas, the different colored ones, So he'll ask me to wear one, and he'll wear one, and he'll give me like a fake little nunchuck, and he'll hold the little daggers, and we'll run around, and like just do that. I love doing that. I just put my phone away, and I like a lot of people do, and I think it's great because if you don't do that, and your child is kind of like fighting for your attention versus the device, it creates a very weird dynamic, and then they're kind of like left of their own devices. I mean, I think being engaged is how you really develop that relationship and keep it going as they get older.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a bad habit that a lot of people need to push away, including me sometimes. Sometimes I get home and there's a bunch of emails to answer from work and a bunch of
Yeah.
messages and to catch up on, and I haven't gotten a chance to do that during work. So sometimes I'm just like on my phone, like replying to messages, replying to emails, and then I get called out multiple times. Hey, get off your phone, get off your phone, and so it's a bad habit. Sometimes work consumes you, and you have to learn how to like put some of the work away and kind of get off the phone, and create strict boundaries to be present. Yeah. Yeah, it's a interest. There's a few devices that they build too now, where it's called the brick, where you can install that in your house, and it deactivates all your phones until you set it. You can set a timer, and as soon as you enter the zone close to it, your phone can be deactivated or completely shut down, and then once you move away from the zone. So it's an interesting thing. Some people need discipline where they just can't do it themselves, and they need to be forced in those things. I think it's an important thing to do sometimes, especially for physicians who deal with emergencies. Having your phone around is important, especially if you have your own business and need to know about employees not coming in the next day, or some kind of other fire that's burning somewhere. Your phone is the key to that blind side. So it does take a toll on you. And that's kind of the next topic that we're talking about physicians owning their own practice, and how is that still possible? For me, I'd say yes, it's definitely still possible. I mean, I did it. And 4 years ago when I was starting, it seemed very impossible. Even in my fellowship, people used to, when they heard that I was doing that right out of training, they used to be like, "Oh, like how are you gonna do that?" And people would say, "Yeah, yeah." It wasn't until very late. I mean, I was up till my almost December, right before I graduated. I was looking for jobs. I was applying to different things. I sent out resumes. I met with a few people, and then yeah, 6, 7 months away from grad. Yeah, I mean, I interviewed at like Houston Methodist. I interviewed at some other private practices as well. And I met with another guy, and he's a very nice guy. He's a cardiologist. Um, and he was at that time looking for another partner to join him, and he had a solo practice. And I looked at that, I was like, this guy's doing it. He's doing it. He's has a solo cardiology practice. I knew I wanted to continue to stay involved in our clinical trial business, and the only way to stay involved would be if I was somewhat independent and in private practice. So I was like, he's doing it. Why can't I do it? So it's around the November, December, right before I graduated. Maybe 5 or 6 months before. I was like, okay, maybe I should kind of attempt to start my own practice. It's doable. Seems like, and then there's another older cardiologist. He's worked closely with us in the past. I met with for coffee with him, and he said, the best advice I can give you is just start your own practice, be your own boss. Then I met with a few other doctors in family. In family you have a bunch of doctors, and they're practicing, and everyone kept saying the same thing. He's like, hey, the best thing you can do for yourself is start your practice, and everyone was encouraging at that time. But the problem was, everyone in an academic practice that I talked to through my residency, through fellowship, no one ever thought it was possible. No one ever encouraged that. No one truly probably even knew how to do that, because they've never done it. So there was never any encouragement from there. But some of the community doctors that I talked to, family friends, uh, this older cardiologist, Dr. Akhtar, um, and then there's another electrophysiologist who who was also kind of I got in touch with, and he also encouraged me. And then I was like, maybe it is doable. So then I decided to just kind of pull yeah, mentorship. Back in the day, early in the early 14th, 15th, 16th century, even up to the 18th century, like that's how most people started their careers, right? They started with mentorship. Like they were they were they were in school, and then they became apprentice, and they would work under someone's apprenticeship for many years and put in hours and hours, and then they would go on their own. There's a very good book by Robert Greene called Mastery. And in that book, he talks about putting in 10,000 hours under apprenticeship and finding the right mentors. And he talks in detail about the mentor-mentee relationship, how you should seek mentors in fields that you find interesting, learn from them, absorb from them, never outshine them, work, always be there to help their work, and make sure you're there to facilitate what they're trying to accomplish. But at some point, when you realize that, you've kind of outgrown them, and you've kind of know when to cut them off and move on and kind of create your own independent path as well, right? Those things are important. Finding the right mentor, seeking guidance, but also not just anchoring on one set of guidance, getting views from many different people. Right? A lot of people trust someone, they get their guidance, but that person has that one lens, one narrow lens of what their lived experiences. Right? They only know what they've done, what they've lived, and I mean, I'm guilty of that. I give advice based on my lived experiences, right? But talking to other people, multiple people, networking, being interested and curious about their life and their career path. And then the other thing I would say, reading books as well. And that's another form of mentorship that we don't think about. But these are people that have gone through certain life experiences, and now they're writing their life experiences in a book, which you can read and learn from. So those are the kind of mentorship people should seek and kind of go on and create their own path. And most physicians unfortunately stuck in this mindset where they go into medical school where they're around academic physicians. They go into residency where most of the physicians they're working are hospital hospital employed physicians or academic physicians. Then they go into fellowship. So the mentorship model for physicians does not expose them to private practice physicians who are entrepreneurs, who are doing their thing, and that kind of limits them. And most physicians, I feel, don't seek those kind of mentors outside. They don't even think about that. There's the idea of looking down upon private practice physicians. And I think I did the same thing when I was in training, where I looked down upon. Oh, I was like, oh, that's some guy in private practice, but I'm in an academic institution, and that's kind of seem more prestigious. But that's, I think, but it's a downside. Yeah. But being a dad, someone who values the family time and family life, there couldn't be a better decision than going into private practice, right? The autonomy it provides you, ability to take your own vacations, block out the time you need. I mean, randomly on a random Tuesday, I block off time when Aslan has a music recital for his class, and at 10 a.m. I just go and go watch that. Or if he has some kind of little karate belt graduation at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, I block off my clinic time and I go. My time is my time. I choose when to work, when to not to work, and that's what a lot of physicians are losing. We've talked about private equity, and then one thing we never talk about is hospital-owned practices, and hospitals own majority of the practices out there. Majority of the physicians are hospital employed physicians, or they're private equity. Yeah. It's not the lion's share, but I think the concern has been the rate that it's growing at, right? It was like from 1% to 2% to 6% at a very fast rate in the past few years. But hospitals still show, and physician-owned practices in a matter of 10 years went from 60% physician-owned to around 40% physician-owned, which is a sharp. And there's a slow erosion of our ownership, our stake in our own profession, right? I mean, law firms are mostly owned by lawyers. Even in dentistry, dentists are much more entrepreneurial, and they have a lot more ownership of their own practices. What happens in physician-owned practices is, the physician does not stay at the top. And there was an interesting thing that I was reading in one of the books that I was reading is, in every organization, the top node is always answerable to someone, right? In large organization, the person at the top is answerable to the shareholders, the board, right? Just like that, in a physician-owned practices, at the top is a physician, and the only person the physician is answerable to after that is the patient itself, right? The physician is face to face with the physician, with the patient, and they're answerable to the patient. Uh, in a hospital-owned system or a private equity-owned system, the person at the top is never answerable to the patient. They're answerable to the bottom line. They're not face to face with the position with the patient. They're not answering to the patient. The physician is. The physician is not the person at the top in this situation. The physician is somewhere in the middle, and they're the ones facing the patient. But that's what makes a big difference, because when the patient is face to face with the physician, they can have that one-on-one conversation. You have certain connection and empathy towards the patient, that you say that, hey, I'm treating you. There could be slight, you could have profits and the bottom line at the back of your mind, but you'll always know to do the right by the patient. Whereas in private equity or hospital owned practices, that's completely disconnected. The patient is no longer there at the top, and that changes all. And as a physician, you have to answer to them, right? You have to answer to them why your visit time is longer, or why your revenue generation is low. You answer to them. In a physician-owned practice, you answer to the patient why the service was provided a certain way, because you're at the top at that time. So they never get to face that. They're shielded from that. And physician who is patient facing does not have that kind of motivation anymore, to have to provide the right kind of service, because they have different incentives. I mean, most physicians have a good heart and they want to do right by the patient, but somewhere that equation changes when you're not directly at the top. And I think that the physician, in my opinion, the best care is provided when the physicians are in charge, and that's how it should be. And at some point, we'll have to go back to a point where physicians are always in leadership positions, and that's what I'm always a proponent of. Yeah. But in a private practice model, you don't have that shield of the big institution, when you know that in a big institution, no matter what happens and however you do, maybe if a patient has a bad interaction with you, or multiple bad interactions, your patient flow will keep coming. Whereas in a private practice, you're not as well shielded, and your reputation, how you treat patients, your outcomes have a much higher weight, right? Your reputation you get a bunch of bad reviews and no one would want to come. Whereas in the hospital system, your patients are being funneled through different avenues. Over here, you're answerable to the PCPs that you're going out for referrals for. You're answerable to your staff, why the practice is not picking up the way it's supposed to, and you're answerable to the patients of why you are running the practice like you are. So there's a lot more weight in a bad outcome, and you care more about how you are conducting yourself, and there's more checks and balances, I feel, versus an employed model where, yeah, your incentives are the same, but the downside is much low. The floor is much higher, where your fall may not be as bad, because you miss still keep seeing that flow of patient. One guy leaves the practice, you take on their load. The other guy, is off for the week, so you see their patients. So somehow your numbers will keep growing. But in private practice, if you do a bad job and you're not keeping up, your numbers will go down, and you'll have to shut down your business. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that kind of, I talk about the benefits of private practice, where the autonomy, the ability to make your own decisions, being able to control your schedule, yeah, that comes in. But the downside is the constant paranoia about making sure your practice continues to excel, and continues to provide quality treatment. Your employees are performing well and according to the values that you've set, and your practice doesn't fall down, get a bad review, or do something that could hurt it. Right, the constant paranoia adds a stress. So you're pretty much trading one stress for another stress. You're shifting the stresses. You're not completely getting rid of the stress. I think anything that's hard will have its stress. Going from a employed model to a private practice model, where you're the practice owner, it goes from less autonomy to more autonomy, but also more accountability as well. Which so yeah, you just trade one headache for another. There always will be a headache, and it weighs in on your health and your longevity as well. Maybe that's why I'm losing some of the hair as well, because the stresses that come with the practice. Yeah. But that brings us to our last topic where, I always thought of saunas and, at the gym kind of like a hack, and used to think that, that's just something, you go in there to just relax, but there's actually true longevity benefits with it, right? I mean, there's been some interesting studies that have shown that, sauna use with exercise or after exercise can have some pretty damn good benefits. Yeah. And it was interesting to see that it was exercise versus exercise plus sauna, and exercise plus sauna had a little bit more, a lot more benefits with the plasma volume and the heat shock proteins and those effects as well. So, it's not just exercise. So when you go and exercise, it may be worth it to kind of sit back and spend a little bit, 10 to 15 minutes more in the sauna. The other study was a Swedish study with a Finnish study with Finnish spas, and what they did was in Finland they did 4 to 6 sessions a week, and that showed a reduction in the blood pressure, even in cholesterol levels, and cardiovascular outcomes as well. There's a slight decline in MACE as well, and that's kind of interesting. I mean, people doing 4 to 6 times a week of sauna therapy along with exercise had, it's a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as dads and as practicing physicians, I mean, I don't know where the time is, but if you do work out 4 times a week, I mean, spending the extra 10 to 15 minutes in sauna might be completely worth it, right? I mean, it does take the time. It is idle time as well, where you're just sitting there and just thinking, right? For mental health as well, there's very few times you get to just sit there and think about things, and it might be not even worth it to take out your phone and doom scroll, because it's just sauna and you can't really see as well, and the phone gets wet. So it might be just worth there to just be there and meditate and just think about your day. Yeah, yeah. We're not as mindful anymore. Mindfulness has kind of died quite a bit. There's no time for just empty space for just to think about things and reflect. And people used to write diaries and sit there in the quiet and reflect. Uh, but now there's no time, and that probably has to have an effect on our brain, and the way the brain is changes as well, because having that quiet time, having that reflective time has a lot of benefits, right? You get to some of the most interesting ideas I have is when there's nothing going on. I'm just maybe in a shower or just driving, and I'm just thinking about things. That's when I get most of the interesting ideas about what I want to do. And unfortunately, we don't let our mind wander anymore. And that's something we really need to. And any successful person that you listen to or talk to, anyone that has a little bit of time, they're highly successful. They all meditate. Meditation, some kind of meditation, has huge benefits. Yeah, they're not just there. Yeah, and the best kind of meditation is when you just let your mind wander and just think on its own and not directed in some way. You just go about your day, and then you see someone and you see them walking, but don't make a judgment, don't think about anything, don't create conclusions, just observe, right? And if you just let that happen on autopilot, sometimes it takes you to interesting places. But unfortunately, most of us don't get to do that much, and I think that's a good practice to be in the car. Those are the times where I get to listen to some of the stuff, and very few times. So I do listen to a lot of the podcast and audiobooks during that drive. But yeah. Well, except two dogs, one mic. You got to listen to it while you're driving. Huh? No, I'm talking about everyone else. Yeah, yeah, not in the car. The 100, the 15 of you that regularly listen, continue listening, please. Yeah. All right, man. Well,